You are listening to Larry Conners, USA.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Conners USA. Larry Conners USA.
Facebook would ordinarily say, we're a private company, we're not liable. Well, you know what? When they act at the behest of the government, when they contact Fauci, when they say, should we censor this? And Fauci says yes, and they censor it for the federal government. And then magically, when the government changes his mind and said, oh, all those facts that were there a year ago, now you're allowed to talk about it. They stop censoring it with a flip of a switch. That lays a very strong argument that Facebook is operating as a state agency.
And I believe, and I've said repeatedly, they and the rest of the so-called mainstream media of the past are now state-controlled media. This is June 7th, 2021. Those were the words of Texas Senator Ted Cruz talking about how Facebook, as he said, with a flip of a switch, suddenly decided that all the posts you put up a year ago regarding that Trump says COVID came right out of that Wuhan lab, or simply asked if it's out of the Wuhan lab, or even you were speculating that. I don't really know, but are we looking at that? If you raise questions like that to any extent on any social media platform, in particular Facebook, you often got put in Facebook jail, or at least your comments were stricken. Or at the very least, they finally start putting up a little notice for real facts of COVID. Go to this source. And that was part of what Zuckerberg had worked out with Dr. Fauci. We're going to start putting up real information about COVID. So when folks are putting out lies and misinformation, we can direct them to this site. And would you be willing to cut a little video for us and add a few points and so forth and add your credibility, We all know now it was a lie from the beginning. And there is no credibility with Fauci. There is certainly no credibility with Facebook or the other big tech. And you know there's no credibility when it comes to what is now state-controlled media. It is not now. It was not yesterday. It was not during the Trump administration. We're going to spend more time on how the once called mainstream media, as I say now, state-controlled media, and I'm actually hearing others, commentators, syndicators, pick up that same phrase. I'm not claiming credit for it, but I had not heard it until I started saying it. You can give them credit or blame, because there's always a thin line between credit and blame. But we're going to deal with the examples of all of these unethical alliances and fake questions. And the polls is journalism, like asking Biden, what flavor ice cream did you get? And then the other day, you had a brief encounter at a conference, and somebody, oh, what about the cat? Tell us about the Biden cat. This is what you ask the President of the United States or a would-be candidate. This is what you want to focus on. It is. It is if you were among the state-controlled media, because we don't want to get anything that could be damaging. All of this points out again how the media is no longer ethical, no longer doing its job for you. So Facebook says it's okay now if you put up those links to China possibly or raise questions. It's okay now. Well, thank you, sir. May I have another, sir? Also, we're going to look at education issues, critical race, not just teaching. Critical race, of course, is teaching systemic racism and encouraging hate and division. I'm all for teaching about slavery in our schools. I'm talking about how we have had minority groups, and particularly the blacks during slavery, suppressed, chained. That was a horrific, shameful chapter of our lives in this nation. I say teach it, learn from it. But what we have now is that you're not just teaching division, you're teaching guilt, and you're teaching more hate. And again, big tech is helping. Amazon continues to do its job to help spread that disgust We'll get into that story. And then you got the New York psychiatrist. A New York psychiatrist who you think would never even want to touch a gun. And talking to a group at Yale School of Medicine, talks about her fantasy involving a gun. And you, that's right, I'm pointing at you. You'll want to hear what she has to say. And, of course, over the weekend, yesterday, June 6th, marking D-Day, when we invaded the beaches of Normandy. I do not want to let today go without recalling some of that. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You can email Larry at LarryConnersUSA@gmail.com. LarryConnersUSA@gmail.com.